Today, OnePlus released their OnePlus 8 and their OnePlus 8 Pro. Um, I'm a user of the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G Mclaren Edition, and so when it released, I was excited to finally see that it actually was real, and then I actually looked at the specs, and I think it's fair to say that the OnePlus 8 Pro might be overhyped. Um, I think it's overpriced, and I think OnePlus is really starting to lose what made them so special. So I'll just this is going to be a comparison video where I compare the specs of the OnePlus 8 Pro and the OnePlus 7T Pro 5G McLaren Edition from T-Mobile. So right out of the box, you get the OnePlus 8 Pro with a Snapdragon 865. The OnePlus 7T Pro has a Snapdragon 855 Plus. So the OnePlus 8 Pro has a better Snapdragon chip. The OnePlus 8 Pro you can get with 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, just like the OnePlus 7T Pro McLaren Edition. From now on, I'm just going to refer to it as the McLaren Edition. It's less of a mouthful. So the OnePlus 8 Pro has 12 gigabytes of RAM. So does the McLaren Edition. OnePlus 8 Pro has the 256 gigabytes of storage, and so does the OnePlus 7T Pro McLaren Edition. So so far the OnePlus 8 Pro seems like a better buy. It has a better Snapdragon, it has the same amount of RAM and the same amount of storage. However, what you don't notice is to get the 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, it's not $899.99, it's $999.99. So they increased the price by $100, and it's $100 more expensive than the McLaren Edition so far just because of the better chip. But let's keep going. Both have 30T warp charge, but the OnePlus 8 Pro also has the wireless charging capabilities. Now, OnePlus says that you could have 30 watt wireless charging. However, while it is possible, no Qi wireless chargers actually do. It doesn't work. It doesn't work with Qi wireless chargers. It could only wireless charge 5 watts. To get the 30 watt wireless charging, you have to buy their specific $70 wireless charger, which right now is 5% off, which will lead you with the 12 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. If you want that wireless charging, you would have to pay $1,065 just for the phone itself, not including the storage. I mean the service. So now the water is starting to get pretty muddy, and you could see why I think it's not as great as it could be. As for the cameras, both have a 48 megapixel main camera. They both have an 8 megapixel telephoto camera. The OnePlus 8 Pro has a 48 megapixel ultra wide, whereas the OnePlus McLaren Edition has a 16 megapixel ultra wide. So in aspect, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a slightly better camera. It also has a 5 megapixel color filter lens, which the OnePlus 7T Pro lacks. So, okay, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a better Snapdragon, and it has a slightly better ultra-wide camera and a color filter lens. So yeah, I guess that's worth $100. Sure. No, it's not. You don't. If you're a type of person to buy a phone for its camera, then don't buy a phone. Just get a camera. If you're that into if this makes such a big difference to you, then if you're really focusing on the camera, then just get a camera. Don't get a OnePlus phone. It's not meant for that. Then, as for the display, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 6.78 display. The OnePlus Mclaren Edition has a 6.67-inch display. So the OnePlus 8 Pro is slightly bigger. What I did notice is that the OnePlus 8 Pro is taller, whereas is taller than the Mclaren Edition, but the Mclaren Edition is wider than the OnePlus 8. So depending on if you like your phones to be longer, if you want them to be wider, that could help you. But the OnePlus 8 Pro also has a 120 Hz display, while the OnePlus Mclaren Edition only has a 90 Hz display. Now, I love the fact that OnePlus is making a 120 Hz display. They were one of the first to actually use a higher refresh rate with the 90 Hz display. And so when we transitioned from a 60 Hz display to a 90 Hz display, it was a big difference. It felt good. But after 90 Hz, I really don't think it makes that big of a difference, for the reason being that most apps the types of apps that would be using a 120 Hz display are gaming apps. That's why you see gaming phones with high refresh rates, like the ROG Phone 2 and the Razer phone, or the Black Shark. But the OnePlus 8 Pro is not trying to go for the gamer phone. It's just trying to be as fast as possible. So all you'll really use that for is when you're swiping on YouTube, you're swiping on the videos, or you're swiping the screens back and forth. Because some games on mobile, they don't even utilize the higher refresh rates. If you go on mobile, on the OnePlus Mclaren Edition, the 90 Hz doesn't make a difference in in some games, because some games are stuck at the 60 Hz refresh rate. So even though the OnePlus has these higher refresh rates, games cannot utilize them. So yes, it's a nice thing to have, but I think if you have a 90 Hz display, you don't really need that 120 Hz display. Nor if you only have a 60 Hz display and you're in a market, if you really want, if you want to get this latest phone because the 120 Hz display, that should not really be the deciding factor. And not only that, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a hole punch display. The OnePlus 7T Pro, the Mclaren Edition, it has a pop-up camera. Why is that a good thing? It's a good thing because you have a full screen to see whatever you want. Yes, it's a moving part, but we've had it for 2 years. We've had it, and there have been no problems reported. They're fine. You don't see on the news, oh, there's a problem with the motor, oh, it's burning out, the phone's exploding. When the S9 was exploding, that was all over the news. A motorized pop-up camera, is not going to hurt. It actually makes the phone better, and it would help justify maybe the higher price point. But instead, OnePlus moved back a step, and they're charging $100 more than the Mclaren Edition. If you don't even like McLaren, if you just want a phone, and you live in Europe, the OnePlus 7T Pro is fine. America can't get the OnePlus 7T Pro. They only allow you'd have to get it in Europe and have it shipped here, but with the taxes and with shipping, it would be cheaper to just get a Mclaren Edition. Plus, the Mclaren Edition is 5G capable, so it would be right on par with the OnePlus 8 Pro. So don't buy the OnePlus 8 Pro for 5G. You could get that in the Mclaren Edition. Don't buy the OnePlus 8 Pro for 30T warp charging, because you could get warp charge 30. Don't buy it for the RAM and for the storage. You could get that on the OnePlus Mclaren Edition. Don't buy it for the main camera or the telephoto camera. You could get that on the Mclaren Edition. It has an extra camera. It has a slightly better ultra-wide camera. It has a slightly better Snapdragon chip. It has the ability to warp charge, but it's only 5-watt warp charging, unless you're going to go out and buy a $70 wireless charger, which chances are you already have your own wireless charger. You shouldn't be going out and buying a new one. And then, that leaves us with the battery. OnePlus Mclaren Edition has a 4,085 milliamp hour battery, and the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 4,510 milliamp hour battery. It has a better battery. Yes. Should that be your selling point, to your justification for buying a $999.99 phone when you could get most of the same for an $899 phone? Maybe cheaper if you get a used one. It just doesn't make any sense. If you don't even want the 5G that comes with the Mclaren Edition, you could get a OnePlus 7 Pro. That one has the pop-up camera. Yeah, the Snapdragon chip is lower, but you could get the 12 and 256 gigabyte storage. You would still have the warp charge. It would be warp charge 30 and not 30T. So yeah, OnePlus 7 Pro, I could see, is maybe not as good as the OnePlus 8 Pro. But with the OnePlus 7T Pro Mclaren Edition, you get a full screen phone with a pop-up camera that hasn't had any problems. You get a 5G capable phone, a 90 Hz display, 4,085 milliamp hour batteries, a 48 megapixel main camera, 8 megapixel telephoto, 16 megapixel ultra wide. You get warp charge 30T, 12 gigabytes of RAM, and 256 gigabytes of RAM, and a Snapdragon 855 Plus. All for $899.99. By all means, that is not cheap. I'm not pretending like that is cheap. But it's certainly better than $999.99. And it's certainly better than what you'd be paying for an S20 Ultra or the iPhone 12 that's probably going to be $2,000 at this rate, because Apple's jacking up their prices. I mean, we used to have OnePlus that we could rely on to give us affordable, high-end specs, and now we don't even have them because they went from flagship killer to flagship. Not even killer flagship, just flagship. I mean, that's all. I wouldn't advise you to get the OnePlus 8 Pro. At the end of the day, it's your decision. You guys decide to do what you want to do. But if I were you, and I didn't have a phone or I needed an upgrade, I would get the Mclaren Edition. Or if you have the Mclaren Edition, I would just stay with it. Because at this point, an upgrade really isn't necessary. And I think it would actually be worse than the OnePlus Mclaren Edition. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Good night.